After defeating the relentless Nemean lion and the monstrous Hydra of Lerna, Hercules had firmly established his reputation as the greatest and most admired hero of his time. His fame had spread far beyond the borders of Mycenae, reaching distant cities and villages where people told increasingly fantastic tales of his immense strength and unmatched bravery. With each victory, the demigod's legend grew, and he was no longer seen as a mere mortal, but as one chosen by the gods, destined for greatness and immortality through his heroic deeds. Hercules' growing popularity deeply unsettled his cousin, the insecure King Eurystheus, who saw in the hero not only an imminent threat to the throne he held with increasing difficulty, but also a formidable rival in the people's eyes. While Eurystheus was viewed with suspicion and disdain, Hercules was hailed as a true protector and a symbol of hope. Determined to put an end to the hero he so feared, Eurystheus devised a cunning plan. He assigned Hercules two seemingly impossible tasks: to capture alive two legendary animals, the elusive Ceryneian Hind and the fearsome Erymanthian Boar. King Eurystheus was absolutely convinced that Hercules would never return without having fully completed the missions given to him, given the hero's pride and determination. Still, by assigning two such unlikely and dangerous tasks, Eurystheus took perverse satisfaction in imagining that he would finally witness his powerful cousin's downfall. He clearly pictured Hercules either lost in an endless pursuit of the mystical hind, or falling to the ferocity of the boar, thus ending once and for all the reign of fear and insecurity that haunted him. The first challenge was to capture the Ceryneian Hind, an extraordinary creature shrouded in legends and mystery. Its appearance was splendid and majestic. It was distinguished by magnificent antlers made of pure gold that gleamed brightly in the sunlight, and hooves as hard as iron, capable of crossing hostile terrain without wearing down. The animal possessed unmatched elegance and moved with almost divine grace, so swift and elusive that no hunter had ever managed to get near it, making Hercules' mission even more daunting and legendary. This hind had been raised by the goddess Artemis herself and was considered one of the most sacred and special creatures in all of Greek mythology. It was part of a select group of 5 divine hinds. These hinds were responsible for pulling Artemis's golden chariot during her celestial travels, symbolizing purity and agility. However, unlike the other 4 under the direct command of the goddess, the Ceryneian Hind had the privilege of roaming freely through forests and wild fields, revered as a living symbol of freedom and independence. Hercules set out determined, but quickly realized the challenge was far greater than he had anticipated. The creature was incredibly skittish, with heightened senses and supernatural speed, making it nearly impossible to approach undetected. For over an entire year, Hercules pursued it relentlessly through dense forests, where sunlight barely pierced through and paths were difficult and full of obstacles. He climbed steep mountains, braving cutting winds and slippery cliffs that demanded extreme focus and physical endurance. Each failed attempt to capture the hind grew his anxiety, giving him the sinking feeling that, for the first time, he might be up against a truly insurmountable challenge. Finally, after an entire year of relentless pursuit and countless moments of frustration, Hercules was at last able to get close to the hind. In absolute silence, he patiently followed its delicate steps, watching every movement with care. When the opportunity finally presented itself, he drew his bow with extreme precision and shot an arrow which struck one of the creature's hind legs. Wounded, the hind stumbled briefly, struggling to maintain its impressive speed, but its extraordinary swiftness had been compromised. Hercules moved quickly, seizing the animal's moment of weakness. With firm and decisive movements, he finally managed to capture the magnificent creature, with a deep respect for the majesty and courage it had shown. But at that very moment, a divine light illuminated the surrounding forest, revealing the imposing and majestic presence of the goddess Artemis. Her gaze was full of indignation and restrained fury, and a divine aura surrounded her like an invisible flame. Her voice echoed powerfully among the trees as she sternly questioned Hercules, demanding to know why he had dared commit such a disrespectful act against a creature under her direct protection. Hercules, showing absolute respect and humility before the goddess, bowed to Artemis as he carefully explained his mission. He emphasized that he was not acting out of personal ambition or desire, but was carrying out a sacred command issued by the Oracle of Delphi, an order he could neither refuse nor fail to complete. With sincerity in his voice, Hercules solemnly promised the goddess that the sacred animal would suffer no lasting harm and would be released immediately after fulfilling King Eurystheus' requirement. In doing so, he hoped to calm the divine indignation of the powerful Artemis. The goddess, moved by the sincerity and humility Hercules displayed, softened her severe expression and pondered in deep silence for a few moments. Recognizing that the hero bore no ill intent and was acting under the king's orders in obedience to the oracle's divine will, Artemis reluctantly granted her consent. With a majestic gesture and a firm gaze, she warned Hercules of the importance of keeping his promise, reminding him of the grave consequences he would face if he failed. At last, she allowed the hero to proceed with his mission, though she kept a watchful eye on him. Hercules immediately set out to complete his second task, to capture the dreaded Erymanthian Boar. The creature was known and feared throughout the region, described in local legends as a being of relentless ferocity and overwhelming strength. Nearby villages lived in terror, fields were destroyed, and the residents were constantly threatened by the furious beast. Horrifying testimonies recounted how the boar charged mercilessly at anything and everyone in its path, leaving behind only destruction and fear. Capturing such a creature alive seemed impossible. To overcome this challenge, Hercules relied not only on his impressive physical strength, but also on remarkable intelligence and strategic skill. Knowing he could not kill the animal, the hero carefully devised a plan to defeat it through exhaustion. He understood that the boar possessed formidable endurance, but also knew its natural limits. With calculated patience and great cunning, Hercules began to drive the creature across steep and treacherous terrain, gradually pushing it to the edge of its stamina. Hercules pursued the boar with tireless skill, cleverly leading it along a winding route that climbed ever higher into the Erymanthian mountains, where snow piled up deep, forming thick, perilous layers. Every step demanded enormous physical effort and constant focus from the hero to avoid slipping or falling on the icy slopes. The powerful boar, in its wild rage, charged forward with determination, but it soon began to feel the effects of the deep, cold snow, which restricted its movement and quickly drained its strength. The chase seemed endless, and Hercules felt the weight of exhaustion and the biting cold, testing his own physical and mental limits. Finally, after a desperate and grueling effort to keep going, the boar collapsed, completely overcome, and surrendered in the thick snow. Hercules tightly bound the defeated creature and triumphantly carried it on his shoulders back to Mycenae. The return journey was exhausting, but the hero felt incomparable satisfaction at overcoming yet another impossible challenge. Upon reaching the gates of the royal palace, the enormous boar caused shock and astonishment in all who witnessed its arrival. Eurystheus, seeing the beast he believed impossible to capture alive, fell into a state of panic and ran in terror to hide inside his now famous bronze jar. His cowardly reaction drew laughter and amusement from the townspeople, who once again hailed Hercules as their great protector and invincible hero. Thus another epic labor was completed, further strengthening the immortal legacy of the greatest hero Greece had ever known.